Runnin' with the Devil, a rock and roll adventure. Part 13. I stood up, walked to the window, and stood on my tiptoes to see out of it. The sky was completely dark now, but the street was lit up by several street lights. In the dim lighting, I could see two different tow trucks, from Toby's towing service, towing my Mustang and Steven's truck, past the police station, and down the street to their shop. Suddenly, the phone on the desk rang. "That lying sack of shit, I knew those phones weren't broke," Derek yelled out. Tiny swallowed what was in his mouth, grabbed his nightstick, stood up and yelled, "Shut up, you punk, or I'll give you something to yell about." "Fucking pig," Derek mumbled to himself, and continued scratching the wall. Tiny then sat down and answered the phone. "Yes sir, right away sir," he said into the receiver, then hung up the phone. He threw his food container away, opened the top left drawer of the desk, grabbed a small set of keys out of it, stood up holding his nightstick, and began walking down the walkway toward our cells. "Mitchell, Ramsey, Simodowski, Bellington, name retracted for privacy," he said in a deep menacing voice. "Charges have been dropped. There's someone here to see you." "Who?" "No one knows we're here," Steven said. "I don't know. You'll find out when you get up there. Now let's go," Tiny said, as he unlocked the jail cell doors, and we all walked out. "What about me?" the suit monkey guy said. "I've been here for 3 weeks. I didn't get a phone call. I don't know my charges, and I haven't seen a judge yet. Why are you keeping me here?" Tiny then took his nightstick, and hit it hard against the bars of his cell. "Shut your mouth, or I'll bash your head in. Your time's coming," he yelled at the guy. The man backed up quickly, and sat down on his cot. As I walked by his cell, on my way upstairs, I took a good look at the man. Mid-40s maybe, black hair, wearing a white button-up shirt, a black jacket, with black pants, and a red tie hanging loosely around his neck, and a pair of black dress shoes. He held something dark in his hand, but I couldn't see what it was. "Anyway, we got to the bottom of the stairs. Go up these stairs, rattle the door, and someone will let you out," Tiny said. We did, and the female officer unlocked the door, shook her head, grabbed her jacket off the back of the chair. "Good night, Sheriff," she said, turning back to us, shaking her head again, then left. In retrospect, I think she was trying to tell us something. Anyway, we all walked into the police station. "Man, let's get the fuck out of here," Corey said. "Yeah, before they try and lock our asses up again," Derek remarked. We all nodded our heads, and began to walk towards the door. "Not so fast boys," Reggie said. "There's a stipulation to your release." "What the hell does that mean?" Steven asked. "Brain cells, boys, brain cells," Reggie commented and laughed. We all turned to our left, to see Reggie sitting at his desk, laughing, holding a large stack of $100 bills, which he then formed into a fan, and began fanning himself with it in one hand, and tossing our IDs to the side of the desk with the other. Derek grabbed the pile, and handed ours to each of us. "You boys are worth a lot of money to this guy," he said, pointing at the bulletin board. We all turned our heads to look in that direction. Standing there, with his back to us, was a heavy-set guy, wearing brown loafers, a pair of white socks pulled all the way up to his knees, a pair of beige khaki shorts, a hideous Hawaiian-styled flowery shirt, and a straw hat, with a thick light blue ribbon around it. He looked like some old tourist from Florida. "Gentlemen," he said, in a low gravelly voice, as he turned around. He had a rather striking resemblance to Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, complete with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Now, Bunny Carlos is a cool-ass dude, but this guy, however, looked like some creepy, white van driving, pet my puppy, used car salesman from Florida. He took a drag on his cigarette, blew out the smoke, and walked toward us. "It's so nice to finally meet you all. I've heard so much about you," he said happily, which made him more creepy. "Who the fuck are you?" Corey said with aggression. "Oh, I love your attitude," he said. "The name's Robert. Robert Bells, 1L, with a Z. You can call me Bob." He smiled, and shook his head excitedly. "And you are?" "Derek Mitchell, Steven Ramsey, Cornelius Simodowski, Richard Bellington, and Michael, name retracted for privacy," pointing at each one of us. "Did I get that right? Your names and all?" "Yeah, man," Derek said. "Calm down." He took another drag on his cigarette, blew it out, then put it out on the bottom of his shoe, and put the butt in the pocket of his shorts. "I cannot," he replied. "I'm just so excited to finally meet you guys." "Why us?" Steven asked. "We are about to make beautiful music together," he said. "Whoa, dude. We don't roll like that," Ricky said, with a nervous look on his face. "Not like that, you idiot. I am the owner of Hellfire Records. I want to sign you to a contract," he responded. "How did you know we were even a band?" We've only jammed together once. We haven't even played our first gig yet, I said. Yeah, our first gig is next Saturday. They're paying us $500, Derek announced. Bob chuckled. 500. Don't worry about that gig, you're not going to make it. Besides, if you sign with me, you'll be playing many more gigs that pay a lot more money. Now, to answer your question, Bob said, pointing at me. A very old friend of mine told me all about you and where to find you. You come very highly recommended, he replied. I've never heard of you or your record label. Why the fuck should we go with you? Derek asked aggressively. More attitude. I love it. We're a small independent label, but we distribute worldwide, and well, let's see, you have one of two choices here boys. 1, you can stay here, and return to your nasty disgusting jail cells, and try to avoid a prison sentence when you talk to the judge on Monday, or 2, you can go with me, he said. The choice is yours, I'll wait, and besides, I just spent a shitload of cash for you guys, that should count for something, right? We all looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, and looked back at him. I don't have anywhere else to go, I said. Bust that fucker wide open, right Derek? Hell yeah man, he said. Rock and roll. Yeah, the rest of them responded in unison, and high-fived each other, Derek and I as well. Excellent choice boys, Bob said smiling. I'm gonna miss my pops, Ricky said sadly. Oh, don't worry boys, it'll only be for about a week or so, then you'll come back and continue on with your lives, well, at least until the tour starts, he assured us. Tour, we all said in unison. We don't even have an album out, Steven said. Oh, but you're going to, Bob said nodding his head furiously. In 1 week, Steven replied, there's no fucking way. Boys, we can talk about that later, Bob said. Right now, let's get you out of here, right this way, motioning toward the door. We walked toward the door, Bob opened it, and held it open for us, as we all walked out into the shadows of the night. I loved that song, Pat Benatar rocked. She wasn't metal, but she could have been. Anyway, right around the corner here boys, Bob said, and walked to the side of the building. We followed. Ta-da, Bob said, sounding like a big goober, your chariot awaits, as he turned the corner. We reached the side of the building, turned to our left, and there, right in front of us, was the longest, the blackest, and the coolest jet black stretch limousine I had ever seen. Bob tapped the back passenger side window, we heard the doors unlock, and Bob opened the door, as we all stepped inside. Derek went first. I had never seen anything like that before. It had wrap-around all-leather seats, tinted windows, recessed lighting, a small water cooler, with little paper cups on the side, 2 reclining chairs toward the front, 1 on each side of the limo, a mini fridge, with a glass door, stocked full with bottles of Budweiser's, in between the chairs, a coffee pot on top of the fridge, with a large can of Maxwell House coffee sitting beside it, as well as a small metal tray, with filters, 2 small containers of powdered creamer and sugar, styrofoam cups, and a spoon. There was a black push-button phone hanging on the wall near the passenger side chair, a small digital clock with red numbers, hanging on the wall near the driver's side chair. It also had a large island-like table in the center, with multiple cartons of cigarettes, and about 20 bags of various drugs on it. Multiple bags of weed, with a couple stacks of rolling papers and a pile of lighters next to them, several bags of all different colored pills, all mixed together, about 5 or 6 hypodermic needles filled with some kind of liquid, with a pile of blue flexible plastic straps, like they use when you get blood drawn at the hospital, sitting next to them, and a huge brick of a white powdery substance, which I'm sure was not sugar, or flour. That's right. Anyway, loud, but not too loud, metal music played through the speakers. Holy fucking fuck, Derek said, as he got in and sat down. Whoa, shit. Jesus Christ. Damn, we all remarked, as we each got in, and sat down as well. Bob was last to enter, shutting the door behind him. He took a seat in one of the recliners and said, "Welcome to Hellfire Records boys, there's more where this came from." "This is all for us?" Steven asked inquisitively. "Hell yes. Call it an incentive," Bob said smiling. "Have at it boys, we got a long ride ahead of ourselves," as he knocked on the tinted glass that separated the driver from where we were. "Who's driving this thing?" Ricky said, as he and Steven got up to get a beer. Ricky grabbed a pack of smokes as well. "No need to worry about that," Bob replied. "It's a party, after all, isn't that what rock and roll is all about?" At that point, the limo began to move. "Does that phone work?" Ricky asked. Yes it does. You can call anywhere in the world, for free," Bob answered. "Cool. I gotta call my pops," Ricky said, as he got up, went to the phone, picked it up, and punched the numbers into the phone. A few seconds went by, then Ricky said, "Hey Pops, it's Richard. Mikey and I are going on a road trip with the rest of the guys. The band. Yeah Pop, my head boppin' buddies, for about a week or so. Are you gonna be okay at the store without me?" There was a long pause. "Okay, Pop, I will. I'm not sure exactly where we are going, but if they have a souvenir shop, I'll get you a coffee cup." "Okay. Bye, Pop. Love you," Ricky said, then hung up the phone, and went back to his seat. "Aw, how sweet," Bob remarked as Ricky passed. "Shut up," Ricky replied. Bob snickered. "Everything all right, man?" Derek asked. "Yeah, Pops is cool with it," Ricky answered. "Awesome, dude, let's party," Derek yelled. Corey and Derek grabbed a bag of weed and some papers. "We don't do that hard stuff, man," Corey said. "We just get toasted and mellow out." "Yeah man," Derek remarked. "Put that shit away." Bob removed the brick, the needles and straps, and the bags of pills from the table, and put them in a drawer underneath the recliner. Derek and Corey then rolled a few joints, got wasted, and laughed for no reason. Steven and Ricky chain smoked, and got completely shit-faced drunk, until they both passed out. Ricky's head falling back against the window. Steven's head falling in Ricky's lap. "I wish I had a camera at the time, that was hilarious," even Bob snickered. "Anyway, I made a pot of coffee, drank several cups, and relaxed. We had to make several stops, so I could take a piss on the side of the road. Coffee runs right through me." Bob wasn't too happy about that. "Anyway, we all talked, told jokes, rocked out to the music, laughed, and had a good time. At one point, Bob looked at me and said, 'Don't you want any of these incentives, young man? They're free.' 'No, thank you. I'm not a partier, I'm good with coffee,' I replied. 'You're going to be the hard sell, aren't you?' 'There's always one in the group,' Bob said in a snippy tone, and just sat there, watching what was going on, and staring at me on occasion. 2 hours and 37 minutes went by, the phone on the wall rang, Bob picked it up and said, 'Very well, thank you,' and hung up the phone. Boys, wake up. Pay attention. We have arrived," Bob said grinning. Steven slowly lifted his head off of Ricky's lap, just as Ricky lifted his head off the window. "Dude, what the fuck are you doing, man?" Ricky said, surprised, and half awake. "I guess passed out," Steven mumbled, wiping his lip. "On my lap, dude." "That's so uncool," Ricky stated, sliding away from Steven. We all laughed, even Bob. The drool on Steven's lip made it even funnier. "That was some funny shit, man," Corey said, stoned out of his mind. "Yeah, funny shit," Derek said, and laughed uncontrollably. Boys, Bob said sternly, "look at me." All 5 of us did as we were told. Bob then snapped his fingers. Immediately after, Corey, Derek, Steven, and Ricky sat up at full attention. I just sat there. "Talk about a buzzkill, man," Steven said. "What the fuck was that?" "Shut up," Bob bellowed. His voice deep, with hints of anger in it. His eyes cold, screaming with seriousness. "You boys had your fun, now it's time for business. Get out," Bob instructed harshly. Corey opened the door, and we all piled out of the limo. It must have looked like the parking lot scene from the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, with all the smoke pouring out. And no, that's not the best part of that movie. We all know what the best part of that movie was, and if you don't, watch the movie. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, there we were, all 5 of us, standing on the side of some old back road, surrounded by trees, illuminated by moonlight, and covered in fog. "Where the fuck are we?" Derek said, looking around. "Fuck if I know," Steven responded, doing the same. "Hell, we all were. Boys," Bob said sternly from behind us. We turned around to see Bob leaning out of the limo door that we just came out of. "Go straight, through those trees there, for about 20 feet, you'll come to a clearing, step into the clearing, and wait." We all turned back to look at the trees, then turned back to the limo, and it was gone. Completely gone. No signs of it anywhere, not down the long stretch of road to the left. Not down the long stretch of road to the right. Nowhere. Vanished. Into thin air. "What the fuck?" we all mumbled to ourselves. Suddenly, the wind began to howl, as the trees swayed back and forth. Vultures began circling around in the skies, cawing, and diving down fast, then swooping back up. The fog was growing thicker by the second. My mind shot back to that dark foggy forest I saw in the dreamscape, as the rain began to fall. Hard. Very hard. We all tried covering our heads with our arms, as we ran into the trees. We were all standing next to each other on the side of the road, before we entered the trees. But once inside, the others disappeared. I could hear each one of them, calling out to the other 4. Stephen, Mikey, Ricky, Stephen, Derek, Corey, Ricky, Derek, Stephen, Corey, Mikey. I heard all of them yelling in unison. I started doing the same, as I began moving forward. It was pitch black in there. No moonlight shining down. Nothing. Not even fog. I began to hear low growling coming from all around me, then what appeared to be little white lights from the tops of the trees, in the branches. I heard the sound of multiple twigs being broken, as if something heavy was stepping on them, and heading in my direction. I began walking faster. I removed my arm from the top of my head, once I realized it was not raining in the trees. Which was impossible, but with everything that happened the last week or so, it didn't really surprise me. Anyway, what Bob said was about 20 feet, had to have been much more than that. I walked, in complete darkness, seeing those lights, hearing that growling, tripping over tree roots and falling branches, for about an hour, falling down several times, until I began to see a dim red light coming through the trees. About 10 feet away from me. I forged ahead, reaching the end of the trees, and the entrance to the clearing. The red light, which was actually a beam of light, appeared to be coming from the direct center of the clearing, shining upwards from the ground. The intensity of the light was blinding. I covered my eyes with my right hand, as I stepped into the clearing. The second I did so, the light disappeared, the growling stopped, and the lights in the tree tops were gone. I was standing, in the clearing, moonlight shining down, all by myself.